Hey everybody, I am AR Mar, and what I watched today is Book 1, Episode 12 of Avatar The Last Airbender, The Storm. This was a great episode. One of the first things I thought when I started watching it was, it would have been really fun if the episode before was called Quiet Before. I know, kind of corny. But the episode starts with dark vision from Aang, like a really, more just a nightmare brought on by his feelings, but it was really fun seeing that little look into his psyche, and hinting at what we learn later in the episode. Sokka's dream made me chuckle when he started talking about it. Not as much the part about food eating people, but when he declared Momo could talk and said some very unkind things. The look on both his face and the look they gave Momo was hilarious. Right after this, we move over to Zuko and his ship, and he makes a big mistake, declaring quite loudly in front of the crew that their lives don't matter, in the face of a storm that he's warned about by his uncle. He almost starts a fight with one of his lieutenants, a really experienced soldier, but his uncle breaks them up. In this situation, his lieutenant really did have a point, because Zuko is so consumed by his quest that he's neglecting the people he relies on most. He can't run a ship, especially not one of that size, all on his own. And then we move back to the Avatar and his gang at a village trying to pick up supplies, and Aang, for a change of pace, gets yelled at by a villager for disappearing, for not being there to stop the war. And as much as I felt a little bad for Aang, this was a really welcome change, because usually when people find out he's the Avatar, everyone's like, oh yay, the Avatar's here, this is the greatest thing ever. It was kind of nice to see that there are people in this world who are bitter about it, who are understandably, angry that the Avatar vanished all those years ago. I mean, yeah, on some level they might be glad that he's back and that things might get better now, but there's still that anger, and it felt a little more real to me. And right after this is when we flash back to Aang being told he's the Avatar for the first time. They do a good job in this scene of conveying just how crushing this news is, especially since the monks tell him that there's a war coming and they desperately need him as the Avatar now. And it's not just like finding out that you're expected to do great things, but this sudden pressure that you have to do them right away, or people will lose, everything. It was really well done, and so far, at this point in the episode, I was really liking how they were showing us the two different backstories of the characters, giving us a little more of a sense of where they came from. When we move back to Zuko's ship a moment later, we see that the crew is discussing mutiny. They, of course, stop the moment they notice that his Uncle Iroh is entering the room, but Iroh just, kind of waves them off, don't worry about it, and joins them. He doesn't chide them, he doesn't punish them. He just tries to explain where Zuko is coming from, what made him so obsessed, and why he is on this quest. We are shown in the flashback a different side of Zuko. And he's intentionally patriotic, and his father's generals are saying, let's sacrifice an entire division of loyal soldiers simply to distract the enemy. And Zuko is just what the hell? Why would you sacrifice our loyal soldiers like that? Why would you treat them like nothing but father? And this is seen as disrespecting the people in the room. And of course, but right after this, right after his outburst, we return to Aang and see a flashback of, right after he's being told he's the Avatar, the other kids have already heard this and they start ostracizing him, saying he can't play with them because whoever's team he's on would have an unfair advantage. And, it really crushes Aang. It's this news he had no control over, he was only just told, and now his friends don't want to play with him anymore. He's had all this responsibility and weight put on his shoulders, and now he's lost his friends. He's lost the fun things in his life, and been given so much to carry. When we return to Zuko, we find out that his outburst, he doesn't have to duel his own father. He doesn't have to duel the general for it. He has to duel, like I accidentally revealed there with my stutter, his own father. And the look on his face, the way they sort of freeze frame on Zuko as he realizes this, was very well done. It really conveyed like the tension and the shock of the scene. And then we go right back to Aang as he finds out, overhears the head monks talking, saying that they are going to separate him from the man who is essentially his father. The only person left who is being kind to him and letting him be a kid still, and they're going to take him away from him. And just like with Zuko, we see this like crushing moment, this moment when his whole world is coming crashing down on him. One thing I want to say about this episode is that it switches back and forth quite frequently between Aang and Zuko's stories, but unlike the last time we had this kind of cutting, which was Winter Solstice Part 1, if I remember correctly, this one feels way better paced and a lot more poignant to do it. Like, in Winter Solstice, the cuts, the two different stories, they didn't really mesh together. There was no real connection between the two stories. There was Aang's serious story, and Zuko and his uncle off being the comedy duo, more or less, for that one. So I really enjoyed this episode, using the cuts to illustrate how Zuko and Aang are so similar, how they have a lot of similar parts to them. And it kind of blurs the line and raises the question, is Zuko really that bad a guy? I mean, yeah, he's a bit of a jerk, but given what he's been through, how much can we really blame him? The next Aang flashback comes right away without giving us a Zuko one. And it confirms exactly what we've been having hinted to us throughout the entire series so far, that Aang ran away from his role as the Avatar when he was caught in that storm. He got frozen in the ice that night as he ran away from home, basically trying to escape these monks who were going to take away his father and force him into these responsibilities. He was scared, he ran away, and he got frozen. And he feels guilty for that because, well, you know, if he hadn't run away, maybe he would have stopped the war. Though, really, Katara comes in with a great, counter-argument there. If you had been there, young as you are and inexperienced as you are, you probably would have been killed with the rest of the airbenders. Maybe it's good that Aang ran away, because now they do have a hope of preventing at least ending the war, if not, since they can't prevent it anymore. And then we return to the last portion of Zuko's backstory, finding out how he got his scar. Apparently, he completely refused to fight his father, and his father, being the man he is, decided that this was a sign of weakness, and therefore scarred Zuko horribly and banished him, saying that, as I think I've stated before, because it's been stated in previous episodes, Zuko could never return to the Fire Nation or regain his honor without capturing the Avatar. It's made clear in this flashback now, once and for all, that Zuko, he just wants to get his father's approval back. Even after something as horrible as that, he still, he wants his father's approval. He wants his honor. He wants to show that he's not a weakling. And that really goes a good way to, making him a little more human. After this, we get the titular storm, and Sokka and an old fisherman from later in the episode are out in the water, about to be totally destroyed by the storm. And right before Aang and Katara show up to save them, they have a great line, a couple lines of dialogue, a great exchange that I just found hilarious. "I'm too young to die. I'm not, but I still don't wanna." That was brilliant. I quite liked it. And it was a good, humorous note to sort of end the episode on. I mean, there's a little bit of wrap-up afterwards, but that, for me, felt like where the story sort of ended was in that storm. And, yeah, all along, a great episode. Anyhow, that's my thoughts on the episode. I had a great time watching it, and y'all have a great night. I'll see you next time.